Hi Stampers, this is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator and I go live right here on YouTube and Facebook every Monday and Thursday with some sort of a paper crafting tutorial. Today is a Thursday, so we are doing our new, what do I want to say? We are doing our new Stamping Made Simple series because I started finding out that there were quite a few new people following me and I wanted to be able to be helpful to all of you. I'm hoping I'm not going to scare away my more advanced stampers and that I'm trying to at least include some tips and tricks and ways that you can simplify your card making, maybe do something in bulk. But I am excited to share with you today the Beautiful Butterflies bundle, and we're going to be doing some fun cards. We are going to introduce die cuts. So these are the cards we're making today. As you can see, they're very clean, simple, easy to do cards using some basic shapes, which we all know are my favorites. So let me move you down to my desk and we will get started with that. So here is my desk. I want to say congratulations to Janet Wilson for being our winner from Monday's card. You won Monday's card by liking and sharing the video. So if you are interested in today's cards, then you want to like and share this video to get included in that drawing. So here is the bundle that we're using. Again, it's called Beautiful Butterflies. And the stamp set has all these great stamps to it. And then it has the dies that coordinate. And if you stamp the butterfly, this is going to cut that out. Or you can cut it out on your own, or you can cut out the detailed part. The same thing with the little butterfly. It's going to have the die that goes with that, some things for sentiments, and then this is the middle of the butterfly. If you ended up stamping just the butterfly using this, then these little pieces create that body that will go in the middle. So we are using the dies. It's not necessary when you're beginning to stamp to buy dies. Obviously, those of us who are really into stamping, we love them. But when you get started, you might want to start out just using punches, or you may want to consider our mini cut and emboss machine. That's this one here. And this is a smaller version of our cut and emboss machine. And so this has a 3-inch wide opening, whereas our full cut and emboss machine has a larger, see, quite a bit larger, 6-inch opening. But the little one works for most of the dies. It obviously won't work for all, and it won't work for all our embossing folders. There are some embossing folders that will fit through it that are the narrower versions. And like most of this stamp set will go through there, but this one won't. So this particular die out of this die set is a little bit larger, and so it would require the larger opening. It is a fun one in that what it does is creates this. See, so this top part up here does not cut, it just scores. And so it allows you to create this like lift up butterfly or a butterfly shaped card. If you were to cut out, you know, all the way through, it could be just a butterfly shaped card, or doing one layer does the butterfly lift. And that does have all three. So it has, this is this one here, and then the white one here is the outline, and then the yellow is the detailed, and then the black is the body. If you don't have the dies, we do sell quite a few punches that will punch out little images. We don't have butterflies at the moment. We have had them in the past. So keep an eye out as new ones come out. I assume we will be getting some new ones in the future. Let me hide those words. I know they can be distracting. So congratulations, Janet. I will show it again at the end so everybody knows who won, but I don't want it to distract people as we start creating our cards. So we're going to do these two. We're going to start out with a basic card base. So almost all cards will start with a card base that is 5.5 by 8.5 scored at 4.25. That is our most common card base. Occasionally it will go long ways and it will be 4.25 by 11 scored at 5.5. And then with both ways that you cut it can be done with the score line at the top or on the left side. So you can create it landscaped or portrait. Both of our cards today are portrait. When we're cutting layers, we know that the card itself overall is 4.25 by 5.5. As we add standard size layers, we go down by 1/4 inch. I happen to have this little bundle of pre-sized pieces. And so this would be 4 by 5.25. And then the next one down on standard 1/4 inch cuts, we'll bring it down to 5 by 3 3/4. That's going to give you a 1/8 inch border on the edges because they are 1/4 inch smaller. And that when we layer them out like they're supposed to be, it splits the difference. And so that 1/4 inch becomes an 1/8 inch difference. Okay, my layers here show that they can be done in 1/8 inch increments as well. That's not as common because an 1/8 inch border gives you a very small 1/16 inch edge when you are layering them up. Okay, you can cut a set like this where it is the every 1/4 inch or every 1/8 inch to use as samples when you are playing around with, deciding what size you want on there. You can kind of play around and see, what kind of an edge that you want on things or how big of a border you want, how something's going to fit. Maybe it's going to go this way. It's very helpful for just laying things out to try to guess what you're doing. As is my other helpful tool, which is this one right here. This is a set of cardstock that is, let's see, 2 3/4 by 4.25. And this is one piece of every single color that Stampin' Up! Has in their current line. And I like this because it allows me to figure out like what color green is going to go well with something. If I'm playing around with things, I can fan out and find all of our greens and say, okay, well, I kind of like, this one here, or I kind of like this one here. And I can even lay it against the designer series paper and kind of decide which ones I like with that. You can also get started by checking the back of your designer series paper. They have this little sheet on the back side that tells you not only the name and the size, but it's also going to tell you all of the colors that are used in this pack. And so then what I'll often do is I'll pull the colors that are listed on the back here. I'll pull out these little cards, and that will help me determine what I want to use as colors for my layers. And then, of course, because Stampin' Up! Is so color coordinated, the colors are going to match very, very well. So this shaded spruce is one of the colors out of this, of course, because this is more of a watercolor look. We have kind of a variation to it. We can pull something more like this that is more of a solid color, and you can pull out the cardstock and see that it's going to match, a little better. I'm trying to remember which one this is. I think it's Lemon Lime Twist. There we go. There we go. So see how the color that's in the designer series paper is the same color that's in the cardstock, which is going to be the same color that's in the pad and the re-inker and the markers and the ribbons, and everything is going to color coordinate and match up very well. But as I said, we'll go back to our card. The card is starting out with that 5.5 by 8.5 scored at 4 1/4. The next layer up is going to be 4 by 5 1/4. And so that's going to layer right over the top of that. I prefer to use our Stampin' Seal. It is a 2-way tape. And the trick is to make it snap off at the top of the roller here. And I kind of do that by rolling forward a little and giving a little bit of a snap. Or maybe doing a check mark to the side. But I want this tacky up here when you touch it. And I want the case of it very, very clean, because I don't want any kind of, goobers that would be in the case grabbing hold of that. And I don't use very much. As you can see, there's just a little bit in each corner. I see quite a few demos that kind of coat the whole back of it, and I don't find that necessary. I find our adhesives are strong enough where I don't need to use that much, and my supplies last longer if I don't kind of load them down by using too much. Okay, so this one is 3 3/4 by 5. Okay, and then I used our dies, and I used the Spotlight on Nature dies, which is a series of circles. And I love basic shapes, as I've mentioned multiple times. And this one not only is shapes, but it's also got kind of detail that goes around it. So there's the kind of an eyelet, there's the openings, like we have here. And then this one here, what it does is it cuts the circle and then it kind of embosses around the outside edge. And so these mix and match and layer over one another, mixing those designed edges. We also have some that are just a stitching on the edge. Sometimes we've had just plain ones. But I like the basic shapes because no matter what kind of card I'm making, what holiday, occasion, color, whatever, basic shapes will always work. I also could use it just right like that. I could also be using punches. Of course, I've got several circle punches that I could punch these out in. But if I think this is too big for the front of the card, or my sentiment maybe is a little smaller than the circle, or I just wanted to add a little extra interest, that could be it too. What I'm going to do is kind of stamp this to the edge. So I'm going to bring in my shaded spruce. And then it's not going to matter because we're on a circle so much, but I like to line them up on my grid paper. So there's a grid line that goes underneath the word. And then I line the grid paper on the side this way to pick it up. That way, if I'm stamping on the inside of my card, it's going to be as straight as I can get it. Again, I know I'm going off center. That is on purpose. And then I'm going to center it in here. But then I want to cut it off on the edge. I'm going to kind of bring it over so that it kind of looks like it's fanning out. So I want to cut straight down that edge. And I could do that with scissors. I could have possibly glued it onto those layers before I glued it to my card so that I could flip it over and then trim on the back side. That would give me a guide. I can also just stick it in the trimmer and kind of align it to where I think I want it to be. And then I know that in there, that's where it's going to cut. So I'm going to just slide it up. And then I can adhere that right to the side. Okay, so that's what I'm choosing to do for this one. And you can, I'm aligning it with the designer series paper. You might choose to align it with that, or you might choose to align it with the card base. It's up to you. Making cards is artistic, and it's kind of one of those things you can play around with and make it your own. Don't ever let somebody tell you you are making a card wrong. There is no such thing. That's why it's fun. We're being creative. There's no such thing as wrong. See, we also have quite a few different adhesive-backed gems that can go on it. We have rhinestones, we have pearls, we have it says butterflies and hearts that are brass. I like these ones because they are nice and flat. They're not going to risk poking through the envelope if I stick it in the mail. I apologize, I don't remember if these are still current, but we do have some colors of current sequins. And again, sequins are one of those things that are nice and flat and can be used on the front of a card and will not poke a hole through the envelope. So I do like that feature to them. And then when you adhere things like this, you want to put them on in odd numbers. There's something about doing odd numbers that's supposed to be pleasing to the eye. So do them in 3s, 5s, 7s, that kind of thing. Okay, the little containers I have them in are from gum, believe it or not. Extra gum. I think there might be another brand too, but I know I buy extra gum, and it's like 35 sticks of gum in this, and they're for sale at the checkouts. And so after I've used all of the gum, I use my label maker and I put the label on the top so that when I stick them into my drawer and they're stacked like this, I know what I'm grabbing. And I just think they're a nice, convenient size. So, take a look at some of the things that you were using for other purposes, and maybe you can repurpose them. Okay, in the inside of the card, we're going to do the same kind of idea, and then I'm going to put the 4 by 5 1/4 of the shaded spruce as my first layer, and then I'm going to stamp onto the 3 3/4 by 5. I'm going to grab some scrap paper. And I know that's what this is for. This is our scrap paper, but I don't like to have to change it every time I do a live. So I will often just pull out a smaller sheet to do my stamping. Because what I want to do with this is I not only want to stamp our inside sentiment. I don't remember which one I did on my sample card. Of course, it's not under my nose at the moment, but let's do this one. So again, lining it on the grid lines. Okay, and then I'm going to use another color. I'm actually going to pull in Pool Party because the designer series paper on the front does fade into blues, and Pool Party is one of the colors there. And then I'm going to take my butterfly and I'm going to stamp it in the corners. Now you can stamp it all the way on. I see people do that all the time. I don't want it to take up that much room, and I want it to be more of a hint of a butterfly. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stamp it off the side. And so I'm going to have it kind of half on and half off. So don't be afraid to let things run off the edge. When you buy fabric, fabric never stops exactly on the edge. The pattern continues all the way out. And then based on where you cut it, you're cutting designs in half. So don't be afraid to do that. And it also allows me to use a much bigger image if I wanted to. So I could have used the largest butterfly and just had it come across the bottom and maybe had the tops of the wings coming up there. And it still would have worked, but it would not have overpowered the thing. Whereas if I had used the entire image, it would have, because it's too big. If I tried to keep that on there, I'm really not even going to have room for the sentiment. But if I had stamped it in the corner, we would still have the look of a large butterfly coming in, but it would not have overpowered the sentiment. Okay. So I have one more, kind of the same idea, using some different dies. And this one will go faster because obviously I've talked quite a bit through this one. Again, we're doing the standard size card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. Then I have my layers that are 4 by 5 1/4 and 3 3/4 by 5. You can choose to use either side of the designer series paper. I kind of initially pulled out this shape, or this side, because it kind of, to me, it looked like the countryside corners dies were going to match with it fairly well. But as I played with it, I really like this. I think that's just pretty. And then if I put that in there, I could do the whole thing. I think it covers up too much of the pink. So again, if I stick it off to the side, I'm going to have quite a bit of pink left over. And then I have the white that's going to go on top of it. So these were the countryside corners dies. And I just did one over the other. Oops, back in the wrong spot. Bring this in, and I'm going to chop off some of the side. So does anybody have any questions? Is there something that you have seen in the stamping world that you're maybe wondering how it's done, or tips that you need? Is there anything about card making that frustrates you, something I can help with? Please let me know, because I'm obviously here for you. So if you have something that you would like to see me work on or create for you or give you tips on, I'd love to know what those are. Okay, you can see these are more of the butterflies I cut out with the dies. I obviously used the leftover strips of the designer series paper, because when I cut this to 3 3/4 by 5, and oftentimes I'll do the 4 by 5 1/4 out of the designer series paper, you end up with a lot of little scraps. And so often I will use the scraps on the inside of my card. Maybe I will make it a strip down the front. Maybe I would want to mount that, with maybe some Blackberry Bliss behind it and have a 2-inch strip on the front and have my sentiment over here. But what I did for the butterflies is I just used the back side and die cut my butterflies out of that so that I got these beautiful kind of variegated colors. And then I could choose from them which ones I wanted to use. And then, of course, I cut quite a few of the little bodies that would go over the top, and I cut them out of the same color that we're using on here. This is Highland Heather, and so I cut the bodies out of Highland Heather so it would coordinate. And then I'm going to use glue dots. Those are kind of my favorites for attaching butterflies because I can kind of hide it underneath the middle. You see there's a little glue dot right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my butterfly over to that and use it to pick it up. I don't put any adhesive under the wings because I think it looks a little more natural when the wings are kind of lifted up a little bit off the card. Makes it look like they've got a little more movement to them. And then I put the little ribbon around here and tie a knot just because I had a tendency of dropping these on the floor. And when I would drop them, they would unravel and be like clear on the other side of the room. And I find that if I put the little ribbon on it, if I were to drop these, I don't lose them. I did use adhesive sheet on the back. We have adhesive sheets in our catalog. It's one of the things that's a little bit buried. And what you do is you peel off one side of the double-sided adhesive, apply it to your cardstock, and then do your die cutting. And that allows for when you're done to be able to just peel off the backing and their stickers, which I find is a great way to do things that have a lot of detail to them, so that you don't have to worry about trying to get glue on the back of them without making a mess. So there is the front of our card. We can do something similar with the inside. I'm going to go ahead and do my inside greeting with the gorgeous grape color, which is a little bit darker than the Highland Heather we're using. And then for in the corners, I think I'm going to use fresh freesia. What did I do with it? Here we go. So I have another layer. And I could have just stamped directly on the inside of my cardstock too, because this is a thick basic white. I could have just stamped directly onto there. I could have even put the butterfly in the corner and have it pop off the edge like we did by just bending the card this way and then doing the stamping so that it would fall off the edges and then open it back up and it would still be white on that side. I do that kind of technique often when decorating the envelope. Our envelopes come with this kind of flap to it, and sometimes what I will do is use designer series paper, and I will use adhesive and glue it down so that it was totally adhered. And then I would open it up and I would trim across the back side, and that would give me designer series paper flap. But sometimes I also will stamp instead, which means that I would take my inks and I would just let it kind of run off the edge. Okay, so that let it run off the top, but now down here, what I would want to do is open it up and then come in and go this way. See, so that's going to give me a beautiful stamped edge of the flap and still have it nice and clean on the front. I believe the post office will allow you to stamp down in this corner, but the post office does like you to leave the front of it fairly blank so that when they run it through their machines, their automatic readers don't get confused. But you can do whatever you want on the back. I'm sure of that. Okay. If I had stamped this on the card, I may want to run a few of the pearls down the middle of the body, just giving, some pearls down this way, giving it a little bit of a pop of accent. You can do that by using the pointy end of your take your pick tool, or you can use the putty end and just kind of set it down and push, and then lifts off, and it's going to be on the top with the sticky side ready to go. So see how quick and easy that is. Now, if you ever run low on the putty, you can just tighten it down, and what it will do is it will start oozing out, but then you want to make sure to back off half of a turn so it will stop oozing so you don't have too much. And then if you really run out of putty, we have replacements you can order for that. So there are our 2 cards for today. I realized these were kind of simple, and we did lose quite a few people that were watching and decided to go off. Okay, somebody says that they put adhesive on, or a decorative over on an edge on the left side over here, and I don't think it interferes with the barcode. It might not. I know I've seen the barcode kind of goes down along the middle. I don't want to advise you to do something that may not work with the post office. If you're ever wondering what the post office wants, I suggest asking them directly. Monday, we will go back to fun fold cards, and I have a definite fun fold. We're going to be doing this one here. I'm going to be using the Friendly Seagulls, which is one of our Celebration stamp sets. And then we're going to be creating this kind of buoy, kind of a porthole look to the window with the post and standing in the water. And then the diagonal gatefold with some stamping and blending brush work on the inside. This is one of the folds out of one of my tutorial books. This diagonal gatefold card is in book number 2 of my Fun Fold tutorial books. And in here you will find not only pictures, diagrams, measurements, directions, like the whole thing. There are 50 patterns in each book. But I will give all the measurements and instructions on how to do this card on Monday. So I hope you come back and join me, and I will see you then. Thank you so much. Bye.